Friends, welcome to the Epic Marvel Podcast YouTube live stream where we talk about epic collections and a bunch of other stuff. It is Monday afternoon on June the 23rd, and I've had a pretty good day so far. How about you? How's everybody doing? Nice to see some people in the chat already, including Ryan and Logan and James and Phil, some of my favorite people here. I am happy that you are all here to talk about comics as well. I've got mostly, sorry, Phil, I don't really have any classic comics on my stack. Actually, I do have one classic comic on my stack here that we'll talk about today, and we'll get to that toward the end here. We've also got Rascal Wolf, and Victor Shade says, I didn't miss it for once. Oh, yeah, glad to have you live. You can ask all the questions you want. Before we get into the new stuff, I want to show you just a little quick update on some of the reading that I have been doing. I started on Annihilation, and I've read the Drax miniseries so far and Annihilation Prologue, which is the first 5 issues of this book here. I still have to read Nova, Silver Surfer, and Super Skrull, but so far, very impressed. Drax is always an interesting character, and I always knew that there was this weird thing where there's the 90s Drax where he's got some brain damage and he doesn't quite know who he is or where he is, or all that kind of stuff. He's kind of turned into a goofy, silly character. And then there's the Drax of the modern age, which is a warrior and he's fierce and everything. And never knew how that transition happened, but this is where that transition happens in the Drax miniseries that's in this book here. So that was very interesting. I thought it was well written. It was a lot of fun. I love all of the different aliens, bringing back the Blood Brothers from the first appearance of Thanos way back in Jim Starlin's Iron Man. That was pretty cool. So yeah, great to see that. The prologue with the destruction of the Nova Corps is just amazing. That they were able to fit that whole thing into what it was for 40 pages or something is unbelievable. It was a great thrill ride. So I am really looking forward to seeing the aftermath of that in the pages of Nova and Silver Surfer, and seeing where this leads to. And it's getting me more excited to read the Annihilation story, which people keep telling me is some of the best stuff that Marvel has done in their modern era. So yeah, really looking forward to that. It's off to a good start. So, we got some more people here. Jason, hi Jason. Hello, Mr. Tex. Hello, Samantha. And hello, Comic Pages. You ordered 3 epics today. Which ones did you order? Let me know. So the other thing I've been reading this week is the newest DC Finest Catwoman, Vengeance and Vindication. And this is kind of an odd book because I like maybe half of the stories in it so far. I'm not all the way through. I'm, 2/3 of the way through, I think, here. But some of the highlights so far are the year 1 story I really liked. Thought that was good. And then there was this family values or jungle cat, no, not jungle cat story was kind of didn't care for that one. And the weirdest thing is that there was this, what is it, this story right here, box office poison, is that the one? No, that's still the old one. The one where the book gets its name from this 3-part story here. Oh no, this is year 1. Where is it? Must be at the very back here. Anyway, it's a 3-part story in which Catwoman kind of infiltrates a series of rich people who are all trying to kill each other. All of these family members who are trying to overthrow each other to get the family inheritance or whatever. And it is not great because Catwoman doesn't really play a role in the whole thing at all. She just jumps around from place to place and observes all of the other players arguing over who gets what, and then eventually killing each other. And Catwoman just kind of walks away at the end. It's like, this is not a. I don't know. They could have picked a better title to represent the book because that is not the highlight of this book. That's for sure. But the rest of this book has some great parts. I enjoyed the first story a lot here. where Catwoman almost gets married. I'll give you a little spoiler there, but that one was fun, and yeah, it's all in Paris. And then I haven't read any of this last stuff yet, so I'll get to that this week and plow through it. But so far, pretty enjoyable, hit or miss. Annihilation, great so far. Okay, the other thing, so I like to go to thrift stores and see what I can find for cheap. And because I'm a fan of classic comic strips, there's always a humor section in the book section of these thrift stores that I go to, and they always have comic strips because those books were printed a lot. And so um, they always have Garfield, they always have Far Side, they always have Calvin and Hobbes, and then they sometimes have a smattering of other stuff. But I was able to find this big book of Get Fuzzy. Have you ever heard of this comic strip? It is it's absolutely hilarious. It's about a cat and a dog who live with their owner, and the cat has a bad attitude and is always saying snarky things, and the dog is a moron and always um is saying silly things, and the pair of them is really really great. It has a great sense of humor, a little bit out there, a little bit irreverent, and just really fun. The whole strip ran for maybe 10 years or so, doesn't run anymore, but it's one of the way funnier comic strips of this modern age. This book I think is from 2004 maybe. Yep, 2004. So it's really, really good. If you get a chance to check out Get Fuzzy, I recommend it. The second thing I was able to pick up was another one called Sherman's Lagoon about sharks. It's also got a really great sense of humor, a little bit more simplistic and cartoony in its drawing style, but quite funny to read. So there's that, and then the last thing that I was able to find was this issue of Captain Carrot and his amazing zoo crew. This is the Oz Wonderland War issue 1, a part of a trilogy, and this series is so good. I don't have very many DC comics, but I have Captain Carrot 1 through 20, the whole series, but I've never had any of the Oz Wonderland issues until now. And so this is a funny animal book that came out in the 80s by Roy Thomas and Scott Shaw. And it's one of those infamous books that got um, mixed up in all this royalty stuff, royalty disagreements, because the contracts in the 80s didn't properly support royalty payments for reprints and all that kind of stuff. So, or use of the characters and ownership and all that kind of stuff. So, it got a showcase of all 20 issues, but that's it. And it's probably, I don't know if it's going to get reprinted anytime soon because of all of the kind of legal behind the scenes kind of stuff. But it would be great to have a big DC Finest of all of those issues plus the Oz Wonderland War. So it lasted for 20 issues. And when it was canceled, there were still 6 issues already in the works. And so they turned those 6 issues into 3 double-size issues called the Wonderland War, the Oz Wonderland War, and that's what this is. And it's not by Roy Thomas and Scott Shaw. It's by E. Nelson Bridwell. He does the story with Joey Cavalieri with on the script, and Carol Lay doing the art and additional dialogue. And I say Carol Lay is an important figure here because she does a lot of work here. She takes the cartoony look of these characters, but also mimics the style of the classic illustrations from the Alice in Wonderland and Wizard of Oz books and blends them really well into this world so that the zoo crew go into Oz Wonderland and um or Oz and Wonderland and meet up with all the characters like the Cowardly Lion and the Cheshire Cat, and it's just a lot of fun. I haven't finished reading this issue yet. It starts off really good, but the Gnome King gets a magic belt and wages war against the kingdoms of Oz and Wonderland, and so the Zoo Crew is going to save them. There's Ozma of Oz, right there. But yeah, fun stuff. So And then the best thing about this is it's old newsprint, so it smells fantastic. You know it. You know what I'm talking about. That old comic smell. I love it. So, gotta find part 2 and part 3 at some point. Okay, now now that the preamble is done, thanks for, uh, putting up with that. Let's open up a package. This one is Metamorpho, DC Finest, Metamorpho the Element Man. This is a character from the 60s who, um, let's see here, 1964 to 1972, who is made up of a bunch of different elements, 1001 elements, so he can change his consistency and whatever to reflect those different elements. Um, let's see here, created by Ramona Fradon, or at least she was the main artist on these early issues. Let's see here. The early issues, according to the index here, Charles Paris. Oh no, he's the inker. Yeah, it doesn't credit any of the all stories written by Bob Haney, penciled by Sal Trapani, inked by Charles Paris, and lettered by Stan Starkman, unless otherwise noted. So, yeah, you'll have to tell me who the creator of Metamorpho is here. He most associated, I think, with Ramona Fradon these days, but I'm not sure. But this is a character that is coming up in the new Superman movie, which is why I guess this book is coming out this specific month because the corporate synergy. They got to have that tie in there. So yeah, we got a Superman book this month, and we got Metamorpho this month to tie in with that Superman movie. The artwork looks very good, very typical of what you would see in the Silver Age. A lot of advertisements in these ones that they don't include. Here we go. Got mine last week. It's great to have this collection in color. Yeah, that's right, because before this, the only real collection was the showcase, the black and white showcase collection. Yes, Haney and Fraden are the creators. Thanks, Phil. Appreciate that. I do like Fraden's work, Ramona Fraden. She does a lot of the stuff in the Aquaman DC Finest, and that one is great. She's such a good artist. She knows her way around page layout and storytelling, and can do a whole ton of stuff. He looks like the Justice League is guest starring in this one. Is that because this is a Justice League issue? Let's have a look. Probably. Metamorpho says no. Says no to drugs. What does he say no to? I guess we'll have to read and find out. Let's see here. I love all of this lettering. This is just so much fun. They don't do that kind of stuff in superhero comics these days. Not at least not the ones that I'm reading. Maybe they do in some of the more silly or fun ones. There we go. Who are these guys? So she has a. It looks like Metamorpho has a supporting cast. Simon Stagg, he wants everything. Sapphire Stagg, who wouldn't want her? Java, who could want him? And Doc Dread, we wanted a villain, and he's it. Oh yeah, and Metamorpho, the world's most wanted man. That's funny. I like it when they just don't take things too seriously, and that's definitely the Silver Age, isn't it? Oh, look at that, Bat Hulk. Whoa, don't know anything about that, but that looks awesome. So this will be fun to read, I think. Introducing myself to a character that I know really nothing about, um, from the prime of this character's existence. Yeah. So what does this collect? It has Brave and the Bold, 57, 58, 66, and 68, and 101. And Brave and the Bold was a team up book, so I'm assuming that all of these are must be team ups, unless or maybe it eventually became a team up book, right? I don't know. This one doesn't look like it's a team up book. It looks like it's just Metamorpho. And yeah, Brave and the Bold presents Metamorpho, the Element Man. And then it also has Metamorpho number 1 through 17 and Justice League of America 42. So there you go. 17 issues, straight issues of Metamorpho plus his original adventures in Brave and the Bold. That's pretty awesome. All in one book. There's the spine. Not bad. Not bad at all. Oh yeah, Bob Haney, Mona Frayden, and Sal Trapani all get the cover credits. Oh yeah, one more book for us, and then we can talk just answer some general questions here. This one, Ultimate Fantastic Four Epic Collection, Volume 1. It's called The Fantastic. And this one, boy, it's like they really pay attention to which movies are coming out, doesn't it? So this one came out this month because there is a Fantastic Four movie. So, just like this one, they're tying it into what's going on in the movie world. Um, there's the spine for you. It's got Reed Richards on the spine. And the back cover, can't remember who drew that one. But this collects Ultimate Fantastic Four number 1 to 18. And unlike the other Ultimate books, this title never got complete collections or ultimate collections or any sort of thick trades. They released all of their books as thin trades that collected one story arc, 6 issues or something like that. So whereas when we got the Ultimate X-Men and Ultimate Spider-Man books, they were just reskinning or like repurposing the previous complete collections, which only had 2 story arcs. But Fantastic Four didn't have to do that because there were no previous collections, so they were able to map it out, from the start there. So it's a little bit thicker than the other one because it has 18 issues instead of just 13 issues. So you can see there it's a little bit fatter. It kind of looks cool, hey? All of them together now. I a little skeptical with the design being a different color, not black like um like before, but this looks good. Sorry, James says that they did have some oversized hardcovers. Yes, that's right. Thanks for the correction. They did have oversized hardcovers. They didn't have trade paperbacks, complete collections. That's what I meant there. So I think once we get all of these, it looks kind of cool where they're all different colors now. Once pretty soon we'll have like a million different red ones and 3 gray ones because that's all that exists for ultimates, and maybe 10 or so of these Ultimate X-Men ones. But yeah, the worst thing they did to Ultimate Fantastic Four was Marvel Zombies. Yes, Marvel Zombies is a spin-off of Ultimate Fantastic Four. It did its own thing, so I don't think that it was the worst thing that it did. The story itself was pretty good, and I can't remember. Is that the story where we're introduced to the Maker as well? Oh, you want to see inside? I didn't look inside. This is again like the rest of the Ultimate Universe. This is a retelling of the origin story of these characters. So this is bringing the characters of the Fantastic Four, taking them out of the '60s, out of the Cold War space race era, and bringing them into the 21st century and updating their origin to be a lot more contemporary. And some people will like that, and some people won't like that. Your mileage may vary depending on what your perspective on that is, but for what it's worth, this is pretty good. I liked these first few arcs, especially. I thought they did a really nice job with them when I first read them way back in the day. I don't think that I would consider it the strongest out of any of the X titles at this point. Um, but it's not to say that it's bad. It just wasn't as strong as Spider-Man or Ultimates or even X-Men, which is probably why it didn't last as long. This one came out. It's this series began a few years after the other ones had already started and already established their things. So I think the whole time it felt like it was kind of playing catch up to what was already being done very well and effective by the other three Ultimate books. But Stuart Immonen, I think that's the guy, right? That's the artist that I was thinking of. Yes, Stuart Immonen or Stuart Immonen. I don't know exactly. I've never found out how to pronounce that one. But this has Mark Miller as the plotter, with Brian Michael Bendis as the scripter for the first story arc, and Adam Kubert as the penciler of the first story arc. That's his work here, Adam Kubert. And then for the second story arc and the third story arc, Warren Ellis takes over as the writer. And then Stuart Immonen does one story arc right in the middle, and then it jumps back to Kubert to finish the rest of it. There's the Mole Man and his moloids in this Ultimate universe there. It's kind of interesting because this book came out in 2004, and it was just 10 years before this that we had Heroes Reborn. So it wasn't even that long before this that they already had kind of a rebooted and up-to-date origin story. And so that is like the comparisons. You had to kind of make those comparisons because they're both fairly recent. Um, Bendis and Miller. Now there's a supervillain team up. Adam Kubert on art. Yes, I really like him too. He was actually in town in Vancouver last weekend, but I was busy and was not able to go see him or get anything signed. It was kind of a bummer. Wasn't even for a convention or anything. He just kind of showed up. It was scheduled, but he just came to do a signing. The maker is Just Read, so technically his first appearance is Ultimate FF #1, but he doesn't come the maker until much later. Thank you. I forgot about that. Spoiler alert. Sorry about that. Can't wait to get that FF. I've been reading so much Silver Age FF lately and have really loved it. Yeah, I'm glad that you were plowing through that stuff. Those are some fun stories. That Stanley Jack Kirby early era of Fantastic Four, those first 100 issues, it's hard to beat them. It's just so much creativity, so much fun, so much excitement in those early comics, and they set the bar really high for Marvel, and not many comics reached that sort of peak. Not none of the contemporaries, at least. Spider-Man, I think, would probably be the one that came the closest. Um, but yeah, Fantastic Four was was the best Marvel was doing for so long in those early years in the 60s. Yeah, what do we have in the way of bonus features in the back of this book? Let's take a look. We have character sketches from Brian Hitch. Interesting. I guess he's the designer, even though he did the covers, but he was not the interior artist. Um, he did the covers for the first story arc. But yeah, it looks like he was the lead character designer for this series. The Thing, turnarounds. What is this? Ultimate Fantastic Four #1 to 6 plot outline by Mark Miller. So if you want to see what it's like to do comics the Marvel style, here's the plot. And they have um, I think they've blacked out all of the swear words. I'm assuming that's what they are. And then I think we get a script over here afterwards. Okay, so you got the plot from Mark Miller, then you get the script from Brian Michael Bendis, And that's not the whole script. It's just an example, I think, of issue one. And then the cover to Wizard number 146. That's a cool cover by David Finch, it looks like. Yep, David Finch. And then an advertisement for another Epic collection. There you go. I wonder what the idea was to do these alternate versions. Maybe they were trying to modernize and maybe switch over to the Ultimate Universe. You have no idea, Victor Shade. There were so many rumors when these books got popular that Marvel was going to ditch the rest of the Marvel universe and just do Ultimate stuff. It was an actual rumor that was flying around and people were getting upset about it and stuff, but never happened because you can't beat the Prime Universe and all that history. You can't just like throw it out the door. It's just not going to happen. Um, the yeah, but you're right. The reason for this was to modernize. There was definitely a concern, and I think it's a valid concern that the audience of these comics were growing or aging, and they weren't attracting the same number of younger people. And it's still a battle that they are fighting today. So, what can they do to to attract the modern generation? And there's two reasons why the modern generation, two main reasons I think the modern generation is not buying these comics. One of them is because now you have 60 years of continuity. And so it's like an obscure character comes back and they make a big deal about it. But anyone just getting into comics is like, well, why should I care? Who the heck is this? What's going on? Then they like do some weird retcon thing, and it's like, well, I didn't know what the retcon, what the original version was anyway, so it has no effect on me. It's like, why is Venom Mary Jane? Um, doesn't make mean anything because it doesn't mean anything to anybody, but doesn't mean anything to new readers because they don't have the connection with the previous Venom or any of the previous Venoms at this point. The other big reason is that comics were just written differently in the 1960s. Very wordy, very robust language, or verbose, I guess you say, verbose language, and then stereotypes, all of that kind of stuff. Not as acceptable, or not acceptable, not as accessible to a younger generation, and certainly. Um, some of the portrayal of the way women were treated in those early years, not that it was horrible, it's just not culturally where we're at anymore. It's just a different world. And so what can Marvel do to introduce these characters to a new generation, without worrying about those outdated stereotypes, without worrying about the way media is consumed in terms of just reading style and such. So they created the Ultimate Universe to provide kids with a modern, updated version, um, that is free from continuity. And it's funny that they had kids in mind because Ultimates is very much not a comic for kids. It's way more mature. And in a sense, this one is too. Spider-Man definitely more accessible for a younger audience. And they did gangbusters in like school libraries, public libraries, and like just selling them in Barnes and Noble. They did fantastic. Like they did exactly what they were supposed to do, um, in the book market, not the direct market, but the actual book market, getting those trade paperbacks and having those stories available. They did wonders. They sold so many. Okay. So yeah, that's kind of the basis of the Ultimate Universe and why it was created. I think the two biggest things putting youngsters off comics are the price. They are too expensive, and availability. No newsstand distribution, no impulse buys. Yes. So I will say that the caveat there is you say the two biggest things putting youngsters off of comics are the price, but it should read, I think the two biggest things putting youngsters off of Marvel and DC comics are the price, because kids are not against comics. In fact, comics are selling with kids way better than they ever have. Um, but it's not with superheroes. It's Dogman. It's Raina Telgemeyer's Smile, and it's all of that stuff. It's manga. It's just not superheroes. But kids are definitely into comics. Comics are huge with kids right now. I have kids of my own of various different ages, some in high school and some in elementary school. And let me tell you, the stuff that Scholastic is pumping out there, there's some really, really good stuff. My daughter absolutely loves the Wings of Fire graphic novel series. It's about dragons. She reads that over and over again. So the price point of those books are like $12 or whatever. It's like the same as a DC compact, and those books are like 250 pages or something. So there's no comparison. They just don't want superheroes anymore. They don't care about it. Even the movies don't get them interested in it. I miss the spinner rack. Yes. I'm a believer that the issue format may not be the best format anymore. Maybe just trade paperbacks with short stories. You are correct. I totally agree with you. Spawn is still a more reasonable price. Yeah. DC Compact has helped to bring comics to young people. Yeah, and I'm glad that they have that format. That's exactly what it should be doing. Those comics at a cheaper price point with a full story intact, that doesn't necessarily need all that continuity. Perfect. Let's throw it out there. DC has a great library for that kind of stuff. Um, they need to be in more places. You need to be able to find those DC compacts at Walmart. You need to be able to find them at the grocery store. Um, that's where they need to be. You need to, if Toys R Us was still a thing, they would be at Toys R Us, uh, because kids are not coming to comic, and comic book stores are dying, so they're not going to be around much longer anyway. Not, I shouldn't say that they will be around. Not a lot of them though. But yeah, um, I think one of the main reasons that they are still doing the single issues is because it offsets the price of paying the artists and writers, because they can divide up the payments, of one story arc into six kind of installments. So you pay them for one issue, and then you get the return from that issue to help offset the cost overall. And then you issue the trade paperback. The artists and everybody have already been paid, minus the royalties or whatever. So that's just some straight revenue there, on top of course, the printing costs and all that. So I think that's kind of the main reason why a lot of these companies are still holding out with the single issues, is because it still is helping them, with their cash flow. Probably not much though. For what it's worth, I still consider myself young, 21, and I love collecting comics, but I definitely think the price is the biggest issue with people I know who are interested. 100%. Absolutely. And that's across the board. With even with these epic collections, with the rising price here, $45 price tag, it's it's hard to uh it's hard to commit to that. And that's just, I don't know. That's just publishing across the board. It's not just comics, although every publisher has their own tier of what they're going to price at, and Marvel definitely is on the higher side of that. Um, it's it, it's it's inflation, it's the rising cost of all of this kind of stuff, and it's not going to get cheaper. Um, remember when comics were 10 cents? That was 70 years ago. Maybe, yeah. How much was this one? The Oz Wonderland War. This was $2. This was an expensive comic back in the day because it was double sized. Um, Double sized comic for $2. You'd have to shell out like a good, most of your allowance for this one comic. But now you look at it, it's like a comic with only 20 pages is like $5 or $6, maybe $7. It's not practical to print them at like this anymore. It costs too much. I haven't bought a single issue since 2017, age 17, and I'm 25 now, and I only buy trades or omnis. And I think that you'll find that a lot of people are in the same boat as you, D. Marcel. Absolutely. It's just an expensive hobby, really expensive. Um, Also, how many new Marvel or DC comics don't make it to 6 issues before they're canceled? Surely the sales weren't what they expected, but all those issues were already printed and paid for. Well, yes. Um, a lot of times they can base their projections off of the sales of the first couple of issues. So there is sales issues 1 is usually never a great marker of how things are going to sell because people will buy multiple copies, or it's issue 1, so everybody buys it with the full intention of buying the rest of them, but then only buy one. Speculators will buy a bunch hopeful that these it'll be the next hot thing. Then the numbers significantly drop to issue 2. And so by issue 2, they can project based on all of their research on past series and all that kind of stuff. They can pretty much project if it's going to, be constant, or it's going to swing up, or it's going to swing down, or whatever. They pretty much know. And so at that point, they have to decide, is it worth it to keep going or not? By the time issue 2 comes out, I think they will have solicited already to issue 7 or 8. So they're at least committed to that. And then after that, they have to decide whether or not they're going to cancel it. And sometimes they don't even. Sometimes they cancel the solicits if it's like really dire. So there's that. DC should blow out all of their Jeff Johns era Green Lantern in DC Compact. It's the closest storyline to a manga. Yeah, and that's a fantastic idea. And we know that manga sells really well at that size, like the small little square volumes, and the price point would be great. It's not a bad idea. It's just not for us old readers who have bad eyesight. That's all. Curtis, sorry it's off topic, but do you think Clover Press will ever reprint Chester Gould's Dick Tracy, either the same or more trade omni size? I can honestly say yes, we do have plans, and that announcement's going to come very, very soon. We are going to reprint Dick Tracy, Chester Gould's Dick Tracy, coming up soon. It's not going to be in the same hardcover format. We're going to do something that's a little bit more affordable in price. Like we're talking about the price points, like those books, those hardcover Dick Tracy's are. When we started that series a decade ago, those hardcover books we could sell at 45 or $50. Now they're up over $65 for one of those because it's just too expensive to print. So they're going to be um, they're going to be a different format, and we are looking also to go beyond the Chester Gold stuff. So you'll be hopefully we'll give an announcement about what our plan is for the post Chester Gold years as well. 100%. They cancel titles before they have a chance to get going and find their audience. They have no patience. Yeah, and honestly, it's like it would be great if they had patience, but if they're losing money on the titles, if they print all of these copies and no one's buying them, then that is a huge money suck. And so they have to pull the trigger even before the book finds its footing, unfortunately. So that will the thing that often happens is that they cancel it. That first trade comes out, and the trade sells like gangbusters. And so you know what? Well, let's just do it like it was She-Hulk. They canceled She-Hulk, but then they collected that first arc into a trade. The trade did really well, so we're like, okay, I guess She-Hulk's back for another number one. So we have a volume 15. It's usually how that works. Did I get the new Silver Surfer Epic? It's in the mail right now. It's coming to me as we speak. Dick Tracy, thank you. Thank you so much, my friend. Sorry about the typos. That's okay. You have COVID. That sucks. I hope you are resting up and that it's not hitting you too hard. I have all the trades for the 1610 universe that I bought growing up as a child and teen. But with the new Ultimate Universe 6160, I've been waiting until they come out in trades before I buy them. Yeah. Yep. And I hear that those series are now coming to an end, hey, with the 24th issues, those new Ultimate books, Ultimate Spider-Man and such, they are all ending pretty soon. And I don't know if they're going to relaunch them with number one or if that's just the end of that story. I have no idea. I've got a bunch of those old trades too. Um, I don't know what the Epic plan is for collecting like Ultimate Secret, Ultimate Origins, Ultimate Human, all of that, those mini series that came out. So I have those skinny trades still, keeping those ones until I see what the Epic plan is for those books. Any Epic announcement news? Not yet. I expect that probably the end of July, we will be seeing more Epic announcements. Right now, they are getting through the Omnis, and you can see the Omni announcements on Omar's channel. And once they get through with that, I think they'll be throwing the Epic information our way. So we don't have too long to wait, just a little bit longer. Well, that probably wraps up our time here. It's been about 40 minutes. That's a good stream. Just to recap, I talked about Captain Carrot and his amazing zoo crew, the Oz Wonderland War #1, which I picked up at a thrift store. I took a look at Ultimate Fantastic Four Epic Collection Volume 1, The Fantastic, as well as Metamorpho the Element Man DC Finest Metamorpho Volume 1. And we looked inside that one a little bit. I'm going to read those this week. And then I also picked up a couple of these comic strip books at the thrift store. One of Get Fuzzy, and the other is Sherman's Lagoon. I always love comic strips. And then I gave a little bit of a recap of my reading experience with Catwoman and Annihilation. So that's that. On Friday, I'm going to be on Dom of X to talk about the three books that came out this month, being Superman, Kryptonite, Nevermore, Catwoman, Vengeance and Vindication. Is that one? Yep, that's what that's called, and also the Metamorpho book. So I actually got to get reading that one so I can talk about it accurately. uh, any words on how the Punisher Epic reprints are? That's either faring or failing, and I'm going to say faring. How are they faring? They're doing well. They're doing just fine. In fact, I am hopeful, and I don't have any official word on this, so don't quote me, but I am very hopeful that we will see Punisher return in 2026, Punisher Epic Collections. And I think that the success with him on Daredevil, Born Again, coupled with the recent announcement that they're going to put Punisher in the Spider-Man movie, I think that we're going to see Punisher come back in a big way this year. So that's my guess. Sharing, I was right. I knew. I knew it. Okay. Um. Oh yeah, the whole family here has it. Thankfully, my wife and son are doing better. It's taking me longer because of my asthma. That is tough. Yeah. Um. I hope you can get well soon, Matt. Um. Push through it. Read lots of comics. Drink plenty of water. Yeah. Okay. That's it for me today. Thanks everybody for watching. It's been great chatting with you. Thanks for all the great questions and comments in the chat. I always appreciate it. Like and subscribe. Like this video for me, because that always helps with the algorithm and such. Tonight is it. I do Marvel Mondays with my son, where we watch in order, in release order, as much as we can. Not real. We mix it up so it's the continuity makes sense, but we're watching through the whole Marvel cinematic saga from start to finish, and we are going to watch Spider-Man No Way Home tonight. So, and I like that one, so I'm very excited to rewatch that. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for being an awesome group of people, and have a great evening. See you later.